February 2007. The longlining vessel San Aspiring is working the Ross Sea, Antarctica, putting lines from roughly 1,500 meters below the surface. Antarctic toothfish is the target. Large, commercially valuable, caught on longlines running through water that sits at around -1.8 degrees Celsius. At some point during retrieval, something attached itself to one of the hooked toothfish and refused to let go. Not grabbed in passing, locked on. The crew pulled the line up. The animal came with it, still holding. By the time it reached the surface, it was dying, entangled, injured, but the crew recognized they had something significant. They brought it aboard, kept it frozen, and eventually shipped it to the Museum of New Zealand, Te Papa Tongarewa. Biologists Steve O'Shea and Kat Bolstad from Auckland University of Technology were there for the thaw. So was the media. The squid weighed 495 kilograms, roughly 1,100 pounds, and measured 4.2 meters in total preserved length. That 4.2 meters, 14 feet, became the number everyone quotes. It's in documentaries, educational websites, and probably every summary of this animal you've seen. It's not quite right. The tentacles on a dead colossal squid shrink dramatically. The Wikipedia entry on the 2007 specimen explicitly notes that the post-thaw measurement was only 4.2 meters, probably because the tentacles shrank once the squid was dead. A 2003 subadult female, not a full adult, measured 6 meters, 20 feet in total length while still alive. Rosa and colleagues, in their 2017 review in Polar Biology, give the species' total length as reaching 6 meters. Scientists at the Schmidt Ocean Institute estimate the upper range at 7 meters, roughly 23 feet. The 14-foot figure is real. It's what happens to one post-mortem specimen after its tentacles contract in preservation. Living large adults are probably closer to 20 feet. This matters for what follows, because the size is the least surprising thing about this animal. The Southern Ocean doesn't behave like other oceans. It doesn't stop, no continental wall interrupts it. It runs continuously around Antarctica in a complete ring, driven by the Antarctic circumpolar current, the largest ocean current system on Earth. That current isn't just water moving. It functions as a biogeographic wall. The Antarctic polar front creates a sharp thermal gradient that most temperate and tropical species don't cross. Multiple biogeography studies confirm the genetic and faunal distinctiveness of Southern Ocean animals. Species on either side of the current tend to stay on their side. The result is an ocean with its own fauna, most of it found nowhere else. About 30 squid species inhabit the Southern Ocean, most of them endemic or near endemic. The major squid families abundant everywhere else, myopsid squids, cuttlefish, are entirely absent from Antarctic waters. What lives here instead is slower, longer-lived, larger, and shaped by water temperatures near the freezing point. Prey that doesn't come easily, and roughly 6 months of polar night per year. Rosa et al.'s 2017 review notes that the Southern Ocean cephalopod fauna differ greatly from the taxa found at lower latitudes, listing unique genera found nowhere else. Psychroteuthis, Condacovia, Alluroteuthis, Slosarcocovia, and, at the absolute extreme, Mesonicoteuthis. You are safe from all of them, incidentally. You would have to dive to between 500 and 2,000 meters of Antarctic water to encounter the worst of them. The Antarctic didn't exile its most extreme animals to protect us from them. It just worked out that way. To understand what this ocean does to squids, begin with the most extreme example it has produced. Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni, the colossal squid. Formally described in 1925 by British zoologist Guy Coburn Robson, working from 2 partial arm crowns recovered from the stomach of a sperm whale near the Falkland Islands. Robson recognized immediately that what he was looking at didn't fit any existing genus. He named the new genus Mesonicoteuthis, and it remains monotypic to this day, the only recognized species in its genus. The World Register of Marine Species gives its taxonomy as Animalia, Mollusca, Cephalopoda, Oegopsida, Cranchiidae, Taeanaini, Mesonicoteuthis. The most important word in that chain is Cranchiidae. We'll come back to it. First, the mistake most people make. The colossal squid isn't a very large giant squid. It's not Architeuthis dux with extra mass. These animals are related at the order level, both Oegopsida, but they diverged into completely separate families long ago. Giant squid are Architeuthidae. Colossal squid are Cranchiidae. The Natural History Museum in London states it plainly. Though the giant and colossal squid are both large cephalopods, they aren't closely related and belong to different families of squid. The bodies confirm this at a glance. Giant squid have elongated, narrow mantles. Most of their total length is tentacle, reaching 10 to 12 meters in the largest individuals. Their arms bear suckers with serrated chitinous rings, no hooks, anywhere. The fins at the posterior end of the mantle are relatively small and ovoid. The colossal squid has a shorter, far wider, barrel-shaped mantle with proportionally much larger fins and dramatically more mass. Its beak is the largest known from any cephalopod. Thicker, more heavily calcified, capable of shearing through things no giant squid beak could manage. And its eyes approach 30 centimeters in diameter in the 2007 specimen, with estimates for the largest alive individuals pushing to 40 centimeters. Unlike the giant squid's eyes, the colossals come equipped with photophores, light-producing organs beside each lens that likely serve counter-illumination or deceptive prey attraction functions. Research by Nielsen and colleagues modeled these eyes' visual range and proposed they evolved primarily to detect sperm whales, not prey but predators, by catching the bioluminescent disturbance a diving whale creates in the water column at depth. The colossal squid can likely detect sperm whale movement beyond 120 meters, which is roughly the upper limit of the whale's own echolocation range. Different animal, different family, different anatomy, built for a different set of problems. The weight comparison makes the scale clear. The 2007 specimen at 495 kilograms is the heaviest invertebrate specimen on confirmed scientific record. Some beaks recovered from sperm whale stomachs are considerably larger than that specimen's beak, suggesting animals in the 600 to 700 kilogram range may exist. The giant squid, Architeuthis dux, reaches a maximum confirmed weight of around 275 kilograms for the largest females. The colossal squid outweighs it by a substantial margin, significantly heavier, approaching roughly twice the mass. The giant Pacific octopus, often cited as the third largest cephalopod, tops out around 90 kilograms in reliable accounts. There's nothing else in the invertebrate world close to the colossal squid's mass. But here's the part that makes no immediate intuitive sense. This enormous animal has almost no metabolic appetite. Rosa and Seibel, writing in the Journal of the Marine Biological Association of the United Kingdom in 2010, calculated the metabolic rates and energy requirements of the colossal squid using a depth temperature gradient representative of Southern Ocean conditions. Their finding: the estimated mass-specific routine metabolic rate at 1.5 degrees Celsius was 0.036 micromoles of oxygen per hour per gram. The projected daily energy requirement for a 500 kilogram animal was about 45 kilocalories, roughly 30 grams of prey. A single 5 kilogram toothfish could, in their estimate, sustain a 500 kilogram colossal squid for up to 200 days. Their conclusion about this animal's hunting strategy: not a voracious predator capable of high-speed predator-prey interactions. It's rather an ambush or sit-and-float predator that uses the hooks on its arms and tentacles to ensnare prey that unwittingly approach. Size, then, isn't the point. The hooks are the point. The colossal squid has two distinct hook systems, and they work differently from each other. On the 8 shorter arms, set in double rows along their length, are large, fixed hooks. Each one has a main claw flanked by 2 smaller cusps, 3 points per hook, deeply embedded in what Te Papa's anatomy team, after examining the 2007 and subsequent specimens, describes as very muscular sheaths in the surrounding arm tissue. These hooks don't rotate, they grip. They're grappling spikes that lock into whatever they contact and don't release under normal circumstances. On the two longer feeding tentacles, at the club-shaped ends, the geometry changes entirely. Here, according to Te Papa's primary anatomical description, the hooks on the tentacles can swivel, but the arm hooks can't. The hooks can rotate right round through 360 degrees. These swiveling hooks, approximately 22 to 25 of them in two medial rows, sit in shallow depressions that allow full rotation. They're smaller than the arm hooks individually, but the spinning mechanism means that anything caught in them gets locked in place as the squid twists. The arm hooks clamp, the tentacle hooks spin to secure. Serrated suckers above and below the hook rows on each arm add further purchase on whatever isn't already impaled. Together, they form a redundant capture system for an animal whose hunting strategy depends entirely on not losing what comes close. Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni is the only member of Cranchidae with hooks on both arms and tentacle clubs. Nancy Voss's 1980 generic revision of the Cranchidae, published in the Bulletin of Marine Science, places Mesonychoteuthis in a specialized group within subfamily Taeoniinae, where the large suckers of the club are modified into hooks, an extreme modification unique to this genus within the family. Every other glass squid in the family relies on suckers alone. The Southern Ocean has produced other species that came to similar architectural conclusions through different evolutionary paths. Moroteuthospis longimana, the giant warty squid, also known historically as Condocovia longimana, belongs to Onychoteuthidae, the hooked squids, a completely different family. It's a circumpolar Southern Ocean species, common enough to appear regularly in Antarctic toothfish diets and in the prey lists of seabirds and whales. Its tentacle clubs carry 23 to 33 hooks flanked by marginal suckers. Different lineage, convergent solution. Hooks appear in multiple squid families globally: Gonatidae in the cold boreal Pacific, Enoploteuthidae, Pyroteuthidae. But the Antarctic produces some of the most elaborated hook arrangements on Earth, and in more than one lineage simultaneously. The reason is the prey. The Southern Ocean mesopelagic is intensely seasonal. During the brief summer, it's extraordinary. Krill by the cubic meter, dense myctophid aggregations, deep scattering layers thick enough to register on sonar. In the deep winter, when polar night descends and light-driven primary production collapses entirely, the mesopelagic food web thins substantially. Rosa et al.'s 2017 review notes that Southern Ocean animals face oscillations from abundance to famine that drive adaptations towards starvation resistance, slow growth, and unusually low metabolic rates. For an animal living at 500 to 2,000 meters in this environment, encounters with large prey are separated by long stretches of nothing. Each encounter has to succeed. The largest available prey at those depths is the Antarctic toothfish, Disosticus morsoni. This isn't a small fish. The largest teleost in Antarctic waters, grows to 2.1 meters, weighs up to 120 kilograms, lives for decades. It survives water that drops to or below 0 degrees Celsius by carrying antifreeze glycoproteins in its blood, proteins that bind to ice crystals and physically prevent them from growing, pushing the fish's functional freezing point below the ambient temperature of the water around it. Antarctic seawater remains liquid at -1.8 degrees Celsius because dissolved salts lower the freezing point. The toothfish handles the remaining thermal margin with molecular biology. Remeslo and colleagues, writing in the Journal of Natural History in 2015, analyzed 8,000 Antarctic toothfish hauled aboard fishing vessels between 2011 and 2014. 71 showed clear wounds from squid beaks and hook scratches. Colossal squid remains appeared in 57 toothfish stomachs. Both animals eat the other when conditions permit. The toothfish tends to scavenge dead or weakened squid. The colossal squid actively depredate longline caught toothfish. The 2007 San Aspiring incident documented exactly this. The squid had locked onto a toothfish at 1,500 meters and refused to release it even as the longline was pulled to the surface. Remeslow's paper called this mutual relationship alien versus predator. That's reasonably accurate. Against an animal that weighs over 100 kilograms and fights back, 3 pointed arm spikes buried in muscle combined with 360-degree locking tentacle hooks aren't overkill. In an environment where food encounters are separated by months, they're the minimum viable solution. Now the genuinely strange part of the colossal squid's identity. Cranchidae, the glass squids. Around 60 species found in mesopelagic zones across the world's oceans. The common name describes them almost perfectly. Most Cranchidae are largely transparent. Their mantle tissues are nearly see-through, their organs visible as dark shapes through the body wall, their digestive gland showing as a dark stripe through the glassy tissue. They maintain neutral buoyancy using a fluid-filled coelomic cavity containing dilute ammonia solution. They're slow, sedentary, low metabolic. Mbari describes the family as animals for whom bioluminescence and transparency are crucial in the twilight zone. The colossal squid is a Cranchidae, the heaviest invertebrate on Earth, covered in rotating hooks, capable of attacking fish heavier than most humans, belongs to the family of delicate glass animals. Rosa et al.'s 2017 review phrases this with careful understatement. The colossal squid is several orders of magnitude larger than some other Cranchiid species. Tapapa's own description of the family notes that Cranchidae are usually small and transparent, nothing like the colossal squid. The 2025 Schmidt Ocean Institute footage of the juvenile, that 30-centimeter, partially transparent animal drifting at 600 meters near the South Sandwich Islands, shows what this species looks like before the Antarctic does its work. Chromatophores visible against nearly glassy tissue. Still a glass squid in appearance. Then the animal grows and the glass disappears. The transparency strategy works in the open mesopelagic by reducing silhouette. You're harder to see if light passes through you. BBC Earth's description of glass squids captures their fundamental vulnerability. They are completely transparent except for their eyes and their stomach. That stomach is the problem. Many Cranchidae carry photophores on or near their digestive glands and eyes to match the downwelling sunlight, cancelling what shadow the opaque organs would cast. A sophisticated counter-illumination system for animals eating small bioluminescent prey in mid-depths. For an adult colossal squid eating toothfish in pitch-black Antarctic water at depth, this breaks down. A glowing stomach, lit by bioluminescent bacteria in the gut or containing bioluminescent prey, is visible for considerable distance in the dark. In shallow tropical mesopelagic zones, the glass squid strategy manages this. At depth in the Antarctic, where any light source draws predators, a glowing interior is a beacon rather than camouflage. The colossal squid appears to have resolved this by abandoning the glass squid body plan as it matures, building dense muscle rather than transparent tissue, and compensating with those enormous photophore-equipped eyes that watch for incoming threats from 120 meters away, rather than hiding from them. An animal descended from a family of fragile, nearly invisible, ammonia-floated glass squids, rebuilt by an extreme environment into something hook-covered and enormous. That transformation is what the Antarctic does. The mechanism behind it's one of the more contested questions in marine biology, and it deserves honest treatment. Cold water holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water, basic physical chemistry. Near the Antarctic surface, dissolved oxygen concentrations run around 9 milligrams per litre. Near the equator, the same figure drops to around 4 milligrams per litre. In the intermediate and deep ocean, the contrast becomes sharper. The tropical eastern Pacific and Atlantic host extensive oxygen minimum zones, layers from roughly 300 to 500 meters depth where dissolved oxygen can fall below 20 micromoles per kilogram and in the worst cases below 1 micromole per kilogram. Antarctic intermediate and deep waters at comparable depths are dramatically more oxygenated. The Antarctic circumpolar current keeps ventilating cold, recently surface-mixed water through the deep southern ocean, and cold, recently ventilated water carries the maximum available dissolved oxygen. The Southern Ocean ranks among the most oxygenated ocean regions on Earth at comparable mid-depth pressure. For a squid, oxygen is a specific physiological bottleneck in ways unique to cephalopod biology. Squids have 3 hearts. 2 branchial hearts pushing deoxygenated blood to the gills, 1 systemic heart distributing oxygenated blood through the body. Their blood carries hemocyanin, a copper-based oxygen transport molecule with roughly a quarter the oxygen-carrying capacity of vertebrate hemoglobin per unit volume. Research on cephalopod circulation, including work by Wells on squid cardiac performance, established that the squid systemic heart operates near its physiological limits even under normal conditions. Getting bigger in a squid means that bottleneck becomes more acute. The oxygen transport system has to scale with the body, and hemocyanin doesn't scale favorably. Warm water compounds this. Research on jumbo squid, Dosidicus gigas, shows that these animals avoid spending extended time in water warmer than about 23 degrees Celsius, with functional limits near 25 degrees Celsius. Rosa and Zeibel's broader work frames this precisely in terms of aerobic scope. As temperature rises, metabolic oxygen demand increases, while the oxygen dissolved in the surrounding water decreases. At some combination of size and temperature, the squid's oxygen transport system can't keep pace with the metabolic demand of the body. Aerobic scope collapse. Scale a warm water squid up to colossal size in tropical seas, and its circulatory system, the blood, the gills, the hearts, runs into a physiological ceiling it can't clear. Not a hypothetical scenario so much as a direct consequence of hemocyanin's limitations in warm water. The Antarctic removes that ceiling by adjusting both sides of the equation simultaneously. Cold water reduces the metabolic rate of an ectotherm, less demand. Cold water holds more dissolved oxygen, more supply. The ratio of oxygen supply to metabolic demand improves. Chappell and Peck, writing in Nature in 1999, analyzed body size data from approximately 1,853 benthic amphipod species across global habitats and found that maximum potential size correlated strongly with oxygen availability inferred from water temperature. Their paper proposed that polar gigantism is dictated by oxygen availability, foundational in the field and contested almost immediately afterward. A 2013 study by Verburg and Bilton argued that cold water, by increasing viscosity, could actually make gas exchange harder at gill surfaces, suggesting polar giants might be large despite cold water rather than because of it. A cephalopod-specific latitudinal analysis found that temperature showed a clearer negative correlation with squid body size than oxygen alone could explain. Colder correlates with larger, but oxygen per se couldn't cleanly account for it. Moran and Woods' 2012 review in the Journal of Experimental Biology concluded that oxygen is one factor among many, alongside temperature, ecological history, and life history strategy. The scientific debate over polar gigantism's exact mechanism has run for 25 years and hasn't fully resolved. What isn't contested? The Southern Ocean has consistently produced the largest examples of multiple invertebrate groups: foraminiferans, sponges, amphipods, isopods, pycnogonids, and squids. Cold, well-oxygenated Antarctic water correlates with larger invertebrates. The colossal squid is the most extreme result. The mechanism is likely a combination of improved oxygen supply to demand ratio, reduced metabolic rate, slow growth over long lifespans, and ecological pressure from large prey animals. All of those factors work in the same direction in the Antarctic. The ecological pressure from prey is worth dwelling on. The Antarctic toothfish and the colossal squid are locked in a mutual predation relationship, unlike almost anything else in the deep ocean. Both are enormous. Both eat the other when conditions allow. Whether the toothfish bulked up first and colossal squid grew to match, or whether the causal arrow runs the other way, or whether both pressures operated simultaneously over millions of years, the scientific literature doesn't resolve this cleanly. Remeslo et al.'s 2015 paper documents the interaction. It doesn't sequence the evolutionary timeline. Framing it as an arms race is a logical inference from the mutual predation data. It isn't a confirmed evolutionary trajectory. What Rosa and Seibel's metabolic analysis does establish, firmly, is this. Size in the Antarctic deep isn't aggression, it's storage. A colossal squid drifts nearly motionless through the dark, burning almost nothing, able to survive on a single large meal for months. The hooks are how you don't miss the meal. The size is how you survive between them. This isn't the kraken, it's something quieter and stranger. A very large, very slow animal built by an extreme environment, doing the minimum necessary to survive it. The Southern Ocean makes survival more complicated still through its annual light cycle. Earth's axial tilt, 23.5 degrees, produces polar night at Antarctic latitudes. At 70 degrees south, complete darkness lasts for weeks. At 90 degrees south, continuous darkness runs for roughly 6 months. Light-driven primary production collapses during polar night. No sunlight means no phytoplankton, and no phytoplankton means the food web that builds from below shuts down. During summer, the Southern Ocean blooms with extraordinary density. Krill aggregations, dense myctophid layers, the whole system running hard during the brief lit months. During winter, the mesopelagic food web thins substantially. For the colossal squid, the slow metabolic pace is almost certainly an adaptation to exactly this cycle. At 30 grams of daily prey requirement for a 500-kilogram animal, it can wait out lean periods that would be fatal to a warm water predator of comparable size. But there are limits to even the slowest burning giant's patience. A study in Prids Bay, Antarctica, found squid remains in the stomach of a female colossal squid. One data point suggesting colossal squid may eat their own kind. Cannibalism is extensively documented across squid biology more broadly. In Humboldt squid, Dosidicus gigas, FAO accounts record it at over 65% frequency in some populations. FAO squid resource reviews note it may be common, if not universal, across many squid species. The giant squid is also suspected of it. For Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni specifically, the direct evidence is thin. No peer-reviewed study has confirmed colossal squid consuming conspecifics. No observation of colossal squid attacking their own kind has ever been recorded. What exists is one suggestive Prids Bay data point, a strong analogy to well-documented cannibalism in related species under food stress, and the brutal environmental logic of polar night. Those 360-degree tentacle hooks and 3-pointed arm spikes work equally well on another colossal squid as on a toothfish. In the lean months, in the dark, the weapons evolution provided for hunting large prey remain available for whatever comes within range. Whether those hooks have been turned inward, on their own kind, is suspected. It isn't confirmed. The Antarctic doesn't surrender its secrets easily, and this particular one is buried under thousands of meters of water in one of the least explored environments on Earth. Now you have the full picture of what this ocean has produced. Around 1,100 pounds of ambush predator, descended from a family of delicate glass animals, fitted with fixed arm spikes and 360-degree rotating tentacle hooks, living in water near the freezing point at depths between 500 and 2,000 meters, eating large fish when it can find them, possibly eating its own kind when it can't, navigating the pitch-black Antarctic deep with the largest eyes of any animal on record. By almost any measure, size, weaponry, environmental extremity, it's one of the most remarkable animals alive, and barely anyone has seen one. As of 2015, only 12 complete colossal squid specimens had ever been recorded, with only half of those being full adults. The species was formally named 100 years ago from whale stomach contents. The first confirmed live footage came in March 2025, when Schmidt Ocean Institute's ROV Sebastian captured a juvenile, 30 centimeters long, partially transparent, drifting at 600 meters near the South Sandwich Islands, on camera for the first time in history. Kat Bolstad, who has spent decades studying these animals, called it, honestly, one of the most exciting observations we've had in the field's history. Still showing the transparent characteristics of its Cranchidae heritage before the Antarctic finishes its work on it. The IUCN lists the colossal squid as least concern on the red list. The honest qualifier, we lack sufficient population data to say much more than that. A tiny fraction of the depths these animals inhabit has been directly explored. We don't know their population size, we don't know their full reproductive patterns. We don't know what warming seas will specifically do to them. What we do know is the Southern Ocean is changing. If the toothfish changes, if its range shifts, if its prey becomes inaccessible, the colossal squid changes with it. The toothfish is both primary prey and primary ecological counterpart. And the ocean chemistry that enabled the colossal squid to reach this size in the first place, cold temperatures, high dissolved oxygen, the physiological space for a half-ton invertebrate to function, is the same chemistry that warming is beginning to rearrange. He was looking at a juvenile colossal squid, 30 centimeters, partially glassy, drifting in the dark 600 meters below the South Sandwich Islands. An animal that carries, if it survives to adulthood, every characteristic that makes its species terrifying. The hooks, the mass, the eyes, the slow, patient hunger, and everything that makes it fragile. The narrow physiological window it requires, the extreme environment it depends on, the nearly total darkness of our understanding of its ecology. The Antarctic doesn't build monsters to be impressive. It builds them because nothing less extreme can survive there. And the most elaborately armed, most physically extreme animals it has ever produced are also the most specialized, the most dependent on conditions that took millions of years to establish and could be meaningfully altered within decades. The colossal squid is what it is because the Antarctic is what it is. Cold, dark, isolated, scarce. You want to keep the massive Antarctic sea dragons? Try as hard as we can to keep the ocean that made them.